You know, this first video, I just need to start somewhere. I don't know what this is gonna look like, but it's episode number 1. This is our first van trip.
Well,
It is our Jack and Jill party. Yeah, I basically first sat down in this chair almost a year ago to the day. It was March 30th, 2019. So I'm sitting here in my house right now. I'm 31 now. So with this year in review video, I wanted to reflect back on my project, go through the lessons I learned during this year, also talk about other big events that happened in my life in the past year.
we're married.
And by the end of the video, I want to explain what my plans are for this project going forward in the future.
Aerobic is on the line. I'm walking back, do training, and it gets into Jesus. I try. Yay! That sucked. That was so bad. Hello. It is. A guy approached.
You see, moving into.
You remember how I said the JSWL? How
Right. Testing the audio. Testing the audio. This room's kind of echoey. Man, I mean, first of all, I made 10 videos this year, specifically for the series. I made other videos as well, but I made 10 episodes, and my goal was 52 episodes. Obviously, that's a huge difference, but basically, after episode 3, my running film, and episode 4, my film about the J.S. Wood branch of the Saskatoon Public Library, I realized that those were the kind of videos that I wanted to make. And making those videos was very, very time consuming. I mean, incredibly fun, and I discovered so much about how I like to tell stories, but I immediately knew I could not keep up the pace of a video a week. Yeah, I just decided, you know what, don't force any of these videos and just make what feels right to you. Now, after the 4th video, and guess what other library George Forster was the architect behind? That's right, FML, the Francis Morrison Library. Woo! Figure out who the architect was, George Forster. So basically I was just gonna get a shot that was like me. Yeah, no problem. Appreciate you guys coming up. All right. I'm heading upstairs to the local history room. After episode 4, Roberta and I went on a trip to Tofino, BC to promote a new RV that the company I work for, Pleasureaway, was building called the Tofino. So we drove from Saskatoon to Tofino, and I vlogged and recorded the whole trip. So that trip happened, and it was incredibly challenging. It really stretched my limits as a filmmaker on that trip. Hello, we are sitting in the Kelowna. Well, it is 9 p.m. I didn't like that either. I got this now, I got this. Okay, so the awesome thing about this van is even though it has the windows around the whole, it's one of the awesome things about the
So we're ready for bed, but one of the awesome things about the Tofino is it's... All right, so we're ready to bed and move on. I should plan these before I start talking like an idiot. I put my pillow on her side, but I just played it off because nobody would know. It's the same pillowcase, but I know. See, I have a better pillow. Yeah, I was actually pretty stealthy in here. I was pretty happy with how... Oh, this isn't going anywhere. I don't know what I'm saying. We had a long day exploring the coast. We went down to Ucluelet. I never know what I'm gonna say.
When we got home from that trip, we went right to our Jack and Jill wedding party. And it was at that point that wedding planning basically just completely took over both of our time. And the first thing that I stopped doing was putting out these videos. It's gonna be a lot of work. I got a lot of stuff to do this year. After a little bit, I put out episode 5, which took a month for my last video.
Ro planted all these. I didn't do any of it.
And then it took me 2 months to put out episode 6. And at that point, I was barely hanging on to making extra videos outside of all the work we were doing prepping for our wedding in September. And also episode 6. The main reason that I made that video was to get back in the rhythm of filmmaking because I had this pretty significant film idea that I was planning to play on the night of our wedding.
And then flip the hold though. Yeah, it does. So the first part of the film is just what you would expect, sort of like a clip montage and like some photos and stuff like that. But what I've always wanted to do and what I love doing is like changing a video like halfway through. I'm in my backyard. It looks like it's like another shot in the movie, like another montage-y shot. But then 2 guys with masks come into the yard, put a bag over my head and zip tie my hands behind my back, it's you and Logan, and throw me into this truck and drive away. And I love this shot too. When we pull up to it, I'm gonna mount the camera on the hood with that, now that I know that's there, right in the center of the frame. Then we're taking this location and another mystery person, who is later revealed to be Roberta, gives you guys this box, which you then take, and I still don't know what's going on. Then we... And then it ends up just being like I'm getting kidnapped and taken to my own bachelor party, and in this case that you guys got from Roberta is like National Treasure on DVD. And there's like a whole end section where I meet up back with Roberta after. There's more detail in all of that, but that's essentially the gist.
I wanted to take the opportunity where we were gonna have all of our friends and family in one room to really make something special. And I just figured I'll never get another opportunity where the environment will be that loving, and then just be able to play something for you know, everybody that we know. So that's when I kicked into gear of planning this pretty elaborate wedding film.
That was amazing.
The only thing, my hands are starting to slip out of this. Well, they're tight. It's perfect though, but they're tight. One more take.
Fuck you guys. They'll see. They have no idea what they're gonna.
What do we do next? I'll join you with that. I don't know. Are they coming? Yeah.
Which was super fun to make. That was also incredibly challenging. It was a bit of a little more than I could chew with that, but You know, it's a pretty significant year in our lives, and I want to be able to look back and look at how our lives were the year that we got married.
Do hereby pronounce you husband and wife. You may seal your vows with a kiss.
Okay, one last thing. This table, we're gonna get up and just move to the back so we can watch. This wouldn't be a DJR production without a feature film. So, on these two screens, we're gonna watch a little, it's just a bit of a montage about our lives together. I tend to film things, so we're gonna watch the movie, and then after that, we're gonna get the dance started.
I just need you guys to know I'm getting married in 2 weeks.
It ended up being totally worth it, and it made the night that much more special to be able to share that video with everyone. But it was at that point that I knew that I just couldn't make any extra videos on top of that. So the project kind of just got halted until after our wedding. Then we went to Europe for our honeymoon, which I was able to shoot a lot of footage there, and I have some really fun videos planned from that trip.
And Creus.
But then it wasn't until we got home from there that I could finally sit back down at my computer and focus on this 52 for 30 project, which felt good. And I made another video in our garden, and then I was able to make my 3-part video essay series about watching movies, and something that I've wanted to do for a long time. Those 3-part videos was a huge step for me in finding my voice in narration, which is something I'd never tried before. It turned into this massive overarching odyssey into my entire collective thought about how I approach watching movies, that then turned into another 3-month project. And it was actually kind of a nice way to cap off this project, finishing that 3-part series, getting to episode 10, and here we are today, March 24th, 2020. I want to get into some of the lessons that I learned while pursuing this project. And before I get into that, I want to read some journal entries that I had written right up until I recorded that first episode a year ago. So this is March 23rd, 2019. I can feel the resistance when I think about what movies I want to make. I want to express myself in films, but I immediately get scared about sharing. March 24th. I need to stop overthinking every decision I make and start putting ideas into play without knowing what will come of it. March 25th. I'm having blocks getting my video series underway, and it's 100% 27th. I've been hard on myself lately for not being able to start my video. Anything I've done that I now look back on and realize I grew was partly because I was out of my comfort zone. Move towards discomfort. This entry was March 30th. Later that afternoon, I recorded my first episode, and it was the first time I'd ever recorded myself in camera. I uploaded my first episode on April 5th. This entry is from April 8th. Putting out my first video has been wild. I feel the pressure, but I also feel purpose. It's exhilarating. I feel as though I've unlocked something inside me that just needs some air to get out. After I put that first episode, it really was this giant weight lifted off my shoulder in understanding that you just gotta do it. It'll be okay. Okay, let's get into this. Okay, let's get into this. Okay, let's get into this. So lesson number 1 is you do not understand if an idea will be good or not until you start doing it, and that you will not understand what that meant until you finish a project. The act of pursuing it opens up so many more opportunities that are impossible to see until you start doing them.
To act on a bad idea is better than to not act at all. because the worth of the idea never becomes apparent until you do it.
The second lesson is resistance never goes away, and you have to fight it with each and every project.
Resistance is invisible. We experience it as an energy field radiating from a working potential. It's a repelling force. It's negative. Its aim is to shove us away, distract us, prevent us from doing our work.
Finishing a video always feels fantastic, but then you restart that process of fighting what Steven Pressfield refers to as resistance, that thing inside you that's telling you to do everything but the work that you know you should be doing.
The more important a call or action is to our soul's evolution, the more resistance we will feel toward pursuing it.
You're never out of the woods when it comes to resistance. It is always there, but it can always be defeated with action.
Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, magic, and power in it. Begin it now.
Lesson 3 is about perfect versus good enough, and this is something that I continually struggle with. So my projects had a tendency to grow and grow and grow, which again was fantastic for the creative aspect of it, but to actually finish video projects, it's a hindrance because it's hard to know when to stop.
The danger is greatest when the finish line is in sight. At this point, resistance knows we're about to beat it. It hits the panic button. It marshals one last assault and slams us with everything it's got.
For me, it's casting as wide of a net as possible at the start with your idea, taking everything in, and then when you get into finishing it, that's when you narrow your focus and really figure out how you can finish this project and see it through to the end. Lesson number 4 is understanding that the work itself is the goal and not the reaction to it. Because what I found with these videos is, well, first of all, nobody's asking me to do these videos. It has to come from inside. So in order for the motivation and the energy to make these videos, the work itself has to be the reason that I do it, not the expected reaction that comes out of it. Lesson number 5, along with lesson number 4, you have to create a sense of urgency within yourself to make your project happen. Life has this insidious way of telling you that there's an endless amount of time to do something. The tricky part is you have to manufacture that urgency in yourself. It's balancing to spend less time daydreaming about the future and more time in the present and focusing on what you can do at the moment to make your project happen.
When we sit down day after day and keep grinding, something mysterious starts to happen. Unseen forces enlist in our cause. Serendipity reinforces our purpose. Ideas come, insights accrete.
Lesson number 6 is to take walks. In this day and age, it's really hard to get solitude and solitude from like other minds and ideas and voices, podcasts, social media, TV, movies. It's basically just a refresh for the brain. Now, the paradox of walking is that when you absolutely cannot fathom going outside to take a walk is when you need to take a walk the most. When you can fight through that urge to not go outside, but then get outside and go for that walk around the block, your brain finally has time to process what you've been thinking about. And walking has an amazing way to put things into much needed clarity. So taking walks has been crucial throughout this project. And finally, lesson number 7, for me, alcohol is the #1 thing that absolutely destroys creativity. There is nothing that takes me out of the mindset for creating more than alcohol consumption. I really understood this year that when I was consuming alcohol, that's when all my values got pushed aside. It's like we all see the world differently, and the gift that we all have is to share our uniqueness and express our view of the world through whatever means you have to do that. And I found an outlet that happens to be filmmaking. So then also with this personal philosophy, it's give the things that I do not value and that I don't control as little of my time and attention as possible, just to free myself up to focus on the things that I do value.
We come into this world with a specific, personal destiny. We have a job to do, a calling to enact, a self to become. Our job in this lifetime is not to shape ourselves into some ideal we imagine we ought to be, but to find out who we already are and become it.
Yeah, moving forward with this project, I think I'm just gonna drop the title moniker of 52 for 30, although I do like the idea of 52 for 30 is just my film brand, but I don't think I'm gonna do the episode structure anymore. But I still want to produce videos as much as I possibly can, because that's what this whole project was about. And I have a bunch of videos that I've started and a bunch that are shot already that I'm editing, and a lot that I have ideas for and that I'm scripting right now. I have one coming out about filmmaking in Saskatoon, where I follow some local filmmakers on their project.
This is Gavin Baird and Kyle Zervinsky.
If it's for the movie, it's for the movie. I understand.
I also have a lot more to say about the local architecture in Saskatoon, and I'm just sort of scratching the surface at that, which I am very excited to dive back into. All this is to say that if you are still tuning in at this point, thanks so much for watching, and thanks so much for helping this project get underway and it being like an incredibly exciting year for this. And I hope to continue making videos that live up to my expectations and your expectations in the future.